Any other questions?
Ask the actual question. What do you think? Do you think those strategies will be effective? That's what I want your argument.
That's a perfectly fair question. I think that you have to, whether boycott, divestment, and sanctions can be successful strategies. And I think depending on the circumstances, they can or they can. So, for example, I think any campaign that's built around the principles of international law, the settlements are illegal under international law, so any products from the settlements ought to be boycotted. That's a completely legitimate demand which a public can understand. Amnesty International, after the Gaza massacre, it issued a very powerful report. It said there has to be a total arms embargo on Israel. It said also about Hamas, but Hamas is, arms embargo on firecrackers and Roman candles. It's not serious. But it's a very powerful statement to say an arms embargo on Israel. And that's what Amnesty said. It has to be a total arms embargo. Why? Because they said under international law and domestic American law, it's illegal for a country to transfer weapons to a consistent violator of human rights. Israel is a consistent violator of human rights, and therefore it's illegal to transfer weapons to them. So that kind of sanction, it's a very powerful one, and we have the imprimatur of Amnesty International, because Amnesty said it's illegal. But then when you get into areas like academic boycott and cultural boycott, what invariably happens is you end up changing the subject. We want to talk about occupation, but they want to talk about the Holocaust. We want to talk about occupation, but they want to talk about anti-Semitism. We want to talk about the Holocaust, the occupation, and now they're going to start talking about academic freedom. And that's exactly what they want. They want to change the subject. That's been the whole trick of this Israel propaganda machine. You want to talk about the occupation, but they say you're an anti-Semite. You want to talk about the occupation, but they say you're a self-hating Jew. You want to talk about the occupation, but they want to talk about Holocaust denial. They want to change the subject. And the problem with the academic boycott is, I'm not in principle against it, because I have to say, yes, issues of academic freedom arise. It's true. When we shouldn't, kid ourselves about it. Yes, issues arise, but I consider them of trivial significance next to ending the occupation. So, for example, what's going to happen to an Israeli professor? Okay, he or she doesn't get to publish an article in a journal, or he or she doesn't get to serve a semester at Oxford. I don't think that's a huge price if an academic boycott can help end the occupation. So weighing the two, of course I'm going to go with the boycott if I think it can end the occupation, acknowledging issues of academic freedom do arise. And we shouldn't pretend they don't. They do. But on balance, I would strike it in favor of, and a tactic if I think it could effectively end the occupation. But I'm not so convinced it can, because I think the tactic ends up backfiring because the whole subject is changed. It becomes the issue of academic freedom. And it was the same thing that happened with the young fellows in UC Irvine. I can understand what they did to Michael Oren, the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Some people think he's a historian. I can understand what they did, and and they actually, for those of you who followed it, they wrote a quite eloquent statement. I was impressed by the intellectual quality of the statement, the moral content of the statement. But I said to them, guys, I really can't support what you did if I'm publicly asked. I said, first of all, because if you use that tactic against Aaron, then their people are going to use that tactic against me. And I feel I have an important message to convey. I have facts, truth on our side, justice on our side. What does Oren have? He has a bar mitzvah speech. He doesn't care. He doesn't really care if he can speak. So who are the losers? If he can't speak, okay, the bar mitzvah speech is canceled. But if I can't speak because the same tactic is used against me, then I think a convincing record gets silenced. And so we're the bigger losers. But the bigger problem is, as I tried to suggest a moment ago, they changed the subject. So now what's Oren talking about? Academic freedom. What is the University of California talking about? Academic freedom. What's the dean? What's his name? Erwin. You know, I have to say, I heard all these wonderful things about him. I think he's despicable. I really do, because, no, I'll tell you why. Because I thought it was really filthy of him to keep saying the Muslim Student Association. You know, he was playing on the Islamophobic feeling by constantly saying the Muslim Student Association, the Muslim student. You could just have said a student group attempted to silence it. Why the focus on the Muslim? You know? Would he have done the Jewish student organization, the Jewish student? No, he would not have. So I'm not going to support him. And I thought that was really despicable, what he did. Because he kept over and over again using that phrase, the Muslim Student Association, like they're some sort of freaks. You know, we have a beautiful, civil, sane society, and then this Muslim Student Association, these barbarians, wrecked the whole moral climate of our university. You know, it was disgusting. It really was. But that's what happens. You play into their hands. So now they talk about academic freedom. And then, what does it do? It turns a murderer, and I think that Mr. Oren is a murderer. What did Oren do during the Gaza massacre? He was an official representative of the Israeli government. He was sent to Gaza to explain to the world what's going on. He was part of the killing machine. He was the propaganda wing of the killing machine. And the propaganda wing was a very important wing of that killing machine. So, but now the murderer gets to play a martyr. And we do it. We turn the murderer into a martyr. So there's a difference between a tactic, which, as I said, in principle I'm not opposed to. But then you have to look at its real-world effects. And overwhelmingly, I think it was negative. And I told the guys, you know, I like them. I spoke to them last year. I think they're terrific people. But I think they're making an error in judgment. And part of the error in judgment is they're acting as if the whole world is against them. But it's not true anymore. You can reach a large constituency who is not happy with the way Israel conducted itself in Gaza between December 27th and January 18th. It was not that country's finest hour.